Hello, my name's Kathleen Blessing. I'm glad you're all here. I'm the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Fuel Division Manager. The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Fuel Division processes several of the larger excise taxes for the Illinois Department of Revenue. We process alcohol, tobacco, cannabis cultivators, motor fuel tax, and motor fuel use tax returns. Last year, we brought in over $3.9 billion. Most of our taxpayers file and pay electronically. There are three processing sections that work hard not only to process the returns and payments, but also provide customer service to taxpayers and remitters alike. I will be sharing news from each of these three areas. This past year, the department implemented tobacco uniformity. It's a path promoted by the Federation of Tax Administrators, and it was worked in a partnership with government and industry. The purpose is to implement efficient and effective reporting and remittance of tobacco taxes, minimize tobacco tax evasion, and act as an information resource to stakeholders. The common definitions are terms generally used by the tobacco tax administrators and industry and are meant to inform users, promote understanding, and to facilitate discussion between the participants. It's a language we have all agreed upon to use. And uniform reports and schedules that we use help provide a format to record cigarette and tobacco tax transactions, and it makes it easier for program and reporting consistency. If everyone reports the same thing in every state, they don't have to reprogram, or they just use consistency throughout. It also helps facilitate information exchange between the states. We're speaking the same language, gathering the same information, and that helps with the uniformity program as well. We get meaningful reports that help verify exports and imports into our state, and likewise other states involved in the uniformity process reap the same benefits. We implemented tobacco uniformity for the TP1 form this past year, and that's the form that's used to report other tobacco products, moist snuff and e-cigarettes. Tobacco uniformity rolled out in December 2024. The January 2025 TP returns were the first to be filed using the new uniformity format. Taxpayers may use MyTax Illinois to key in the returns or submit a CSV formatted file. For larger files, taxpayers direct file using a schema formatted in XML, I should say. Coming soon, we're planning a second phase of uniformity to be implemented for cigarette returns. This will roll out toward the end of 2025. Now on to motor fuel. July 1st of 2019, the motor fuel tax rate increased from 19 cents a gallon to 38 cents a gallon, with the annual provision that the rate will be reevaluated each July 1st. Since the change of the rates have steadily increased over the past few years, it went from 19 cents a gallon to 38 to our current rate of 47 cents a gallon. There's a special fuel differential of 7.5 cents, which makes diesel and special fuel, the rate is for them is 54.5 cents a gallon. The motor fuel industry is complicated and vast. Not every state operates the same. Some tax at the rack or the terminal or the pipeline, but Illinois does not. We are a distributor state, meaning the point of taxation is from licensed distributors and suppliers and receivers. Illinois gets its tax from the returns of our licensed distributors, suppliers, and receivers. This allows the sale of product to move tax-free between other licensed distributors and suppliers. And this is why motor fuel licensing and reporting is so important. Unlicensed companies and brokers are not allowed to make tax-free sales of motor fuel. Only licensed distributors and suppliers are allowed to make tax-free sales of motor fuel, and in these 5 instances: 1, the sales are made to another licensed distributor or supplier. 2, sales are made with delivery to a purchaser outside the state that's exporting it. 3, sales are made to the federal government. Other ways that licensed distributors or suppliers can make tax-free sales are made to municipal corporations owning and operating a local transportation system for public service in this state. And 5, sales of dyed diesel fuel to the end user of the fuel, who is not a licensed distributor or supplier, and that it's used for non-highway purposes. If the sales don't fall into these categories, the tax is to be collected. Motor fuel distributors and suppliers file monthly returns that are due by the 20th of each month. Some of the common errors are inventory issues. Illinois requires a stick or meter reading for fuel inventory. Using book inventories can lead to big problems. Also imperative is making sure ending inventory matches the beginning inventory of the following month, and that the combined fuel inventories on the RMFT5 must agree with column 1 inventory amount on the RMFT5 US receiver's return. Also, issues with lost gain seem to be a common. Line 10 on the RMFT5 here, as you see, is to show the difference in temperature variations or evaporation. It's not to be used for missing receipts or sales. For reporting on schedules, Illinois is an invoice state. Purchase of fuel and reporting the fuel should be done by invoice and invoice gallons. Now let's switch over to motor fuel. We'll switch from motor fuel tax to motor fuel use tax. And what is IFTA? Well, that's the International Fuel Tax Agreement. It's a cooperative agreement among the 48 United States and 10 Canadian provinces to simplify reporting motor fuel use tax by motor carriers that operate in more than one jurisdiction. And the states and the provinces are considered jurisdictions. The jurisdictions in the agreement follow uniform administration of collecting motor fuel use tax on behalf of the other member jurisdictions through the base jurisdiction concept and a uniform definition of qualified motor vehicles. That's real important, is the definition. Jurisdictions retain sovereign authority to determine tax rates, exemptions, and other essential tax authority. The licensing for IFTA revolves around the definition of a qualified motor vehicle. Commercial vehicles traveling into more than one jurisdiction where the vehicle is used, designed, or maintained for the transportation of persons or property, and having 2 axles and a gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight exceeding 26,000 pounds, having 3 or more axles regardless of weight, or is used in a combination when the gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight of such a combination exceeds 26,000 pounds. So over 26,000 pounds seems to be key, or 3 axles. Before IFTA, carriers needed to obtain a license in every jurisdiction they traveled. The IFTA agreement simplified the motor fuel use tax process with a base jurisdiction concept. We went to one license obtained in the jurisdiction that the carrier is based in, and the licensee reports all the travel on one return. So much easier than obtaining 58 licenses and filing 58 returns. When a carrier submits an application using MyTax Illinois, we review and process the application. Once approved, we issue a carrier a license. They are to keep a copy of the license in every vehicle of their fleet. They are also issued a set of serialized IFTA decals, one for each qualified motor vehicle they operate. The decals are displayed on the outside of the cab of each vehicle operating under the IFTA license. IFTA licensees are expected to maintain fleet records for 4 years. These include distance records and fuel records and trip sheets. Also important is tracking the serialized decals assigned to them. IFTA returns are filed quarterly. Fleet totals are reported on quarterly returns. Some of the common errors are mile per gallon errors. If the miles per gallon is not reasonable, whether it's really high or really low for the fleet or the vehicle, check the number of gallons used to calculate the MPG. Chances are you might have forgot a receipt, or if the MPG is too high, you might have forgot a receipt, or if it's too low, you might have concluded something like reefer fuel put in a refrigeration unit, or diesel exhaust fluid. So we want to make sure we double check what we've put into the tank of the motor vehicle. Also common error is estimating miles and gallons. IFTA requires keeping good records and reporting actual amounts of on the return, whether it's miles or fuel. We round to the nearest mile and the nearest whole gallon. Estimates are not acceptable and they indicate poor record keeping. Other common errors are not knowing when a vehicle needs IFTA. The key always goes back to the definition of a qualified motor vehicle. So looking at these might surprise you, but these all need IFTA. A lot of people think IFTA is just for semis, but these are in there because they have 3 or more axles regardless of weight. When we talk about the axles, it's regarding on the driving motor vehicle, not any trailers pulled behind. But even if some of those are registered under 26,000 pounds, they would need IFTA because they have 3 axles or more. Also, another tricky thing is realizing the combination. It says when the combination of a truck and trailer is over 26,000 pounds. You might have a truck registered at 16,000 and a trailer registered at 10,000. Well, that's at 26,000. You think, oh, I don't need IFTA. But if your load puts you over 26,000 pounds, you would need IFTA. So it's always important to double check everything. And if you need help, you can always call the office. We have staff that will help you lead through the complications. In closing, I'll share some IFTA facts. Illinois is the 4th largest IFTA carrier population in the 58 jurisdiction agreement. We license over 18,500 IFTA carriers. We issue 263,895 IFTA decals. That represents a truck and its records. So we have a lot of vehicles under the Illinois IFTAs. Illinois licensed IFTA carriers reported over 13 billion miles in all of the 58 jurisdictions. So our carriers are traveling everywhere and they're racking up the miles. And what I thought was interesting is just under 7 billion miles were traveled in Illinois by all the IFTA carriers from all the 58 jurisdictions. 7 billion miles is a lot of Illinois roads traveled. And also, IFTA carriers purchased over 1 billion gallons of diesel fuel in Illinois. So it's a smaller group of population, but they do a lot of work. And again, I appreciate you guys' time. And I think you've been a great audience. And if you have questions, feel free to call the office and people are here to help you. Thank you.